Made copies, so apparently it was just not in, did you all get the 629?
Yeah.
And we are live.
It's here to be.
No.
Yeah, neither did David, neither did Don.
No, it's not in here.
Big binder.
The,
Kind of flying off. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're supposed to get this new book, so I have a. We all have those. Well, people that went to the summer got the new. Oh, okay. I didn't go to the summer because I've been there. I've been over there. Gotcha. Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
I can read all the things.
I'll send you.
You don't. So.
Thank you, sir.
You always have the option to abstain or something.
Yeah, I think. I think Henry said it was going to come in, so I'm gonna go ahead and put him on here.
It's
And you.
Henry said, Henry said,
so much.
SABL, he's a doctor, he's on his way to work.
We continue it.
He's been talking in the park.
You know, it's a street. It says it in 2 minutes.
John.
So is there one that's got red on it?
Well. John.
I thought we had red.
But that's probably the one,
That's Fred's. Not yours.
but you'll make a copy, so it's gonna get red.
Copies didn't come up with the red.
Okay, you got an original?
Yeah.
Light gray.
Copies.
This one, you want this one?
Well, apparently it's made another one. I haven't seen it.
So let me see this. Yeah, this is the one, but when I just copied it, here it came out all black.
But this is the right one.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
We should wait.
I know, sir.
Okay, you mean instruction.
That's okay.
Yeah. Good.
I got stuff.
Okay.
Got it.
This is with the
The
red.
color. I can see your first.
This different. I'm just said.
Well,
It
was. Wow.
He got one bad. Okay. So.
You clearly had a public copy.
Oh, this.
Way to start.
Okay, it's a little after 7 p.m. I'll call to order the City of Prospect City Council regular meeting. This is Monday, July 17, 2023. And welcome everyone to the meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Those have been distributed to council members. I understand there may be some corrections. So let me ask if there's a motion to approve the minutes as distributed. There a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are there corrections or additions?
Yes, I call to everybody's attention the June 27th special meeting minutes. Under the new business paragraph, we have in the first vote on ordinance 628, we say the motion passed 3-1. What we have under the nay, under the A, we have all 4 people voting in favor. And then under the nay, we have none. So
Yeah, and I think John voted no.
I don't
So
know.
I'm pretty sure, John, you voted against that budget ordinance at the last meeting.
I don't remember what we're talking about.
Okay, this is the, that's okay.
If you say so, it's so, but I don't.
Well, what we'll do is we'll check the tape and those will be corrected.
So then in the second paragraph of there, the roll call vote is mentioned, and it has Mr. Evans voting in favor, and it also has Mr. Evans voting against.
Right, that was the one I thought you were talking about.
That's, well, under both of them, you see that there's an issue. We have 4 people voting yay and none nay, but then it says the motion passed 3-1. It's mathematically not.
We'll
So,
make the correction based on the video.
yeah,
Any other
no,
changes?
no, sir.
Okay, with the caveat that we'll correct that clerical error. Are we ready for a vote? All in favor of approving the minutes with the caveat that I mentioned, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved with that caveat. The next item on the agenda is comments from citizens. And we've got several this evening. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to start with Kathy Jacobs, who's here from the Prospect Chamber of Commerce. So we're glad you're here, Kathy.
So I just wanted to come up here and express my appreciation for all your support through the years. This may very well be my last meeting to attend as I'm retiring. So I just wanted to thank you all for your support and appreciate it. It's been an honor to serve the business community. And I hope you'll give your support to whoever comes in after me.
Okay, there's not a replacement yet.
Final interviews are going on this week.
Okay, very good. Well, congratulations on your retirement, and we sure enjoyed working.
And I'll still be involved. I'll be a member of the chamber.
Great, thanks, Kathy.
Cheers.
You will have a successor because she can't be replaced.
That's right. A successor, that's right. Well, it's been great working with you, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thanks, Kathy. All right. Looks like the other speakers signed up are all going to address the Harrods Creek Stream Crossing Bridge Project. And I'll call on Linda Wardell first. And comments are limited to 3 minutes.
I'll talk fast. I wanted to give you some background information on the genesis of the bridge project. Shortly after Harrods Creek Park was established as a city park in 2011, MSD began a project to replace several packet treatment plants and run a force main sewer line through Harrods Creek Park. And during this construction, they built a culvert stream crossing to accommodate the construction equipment. And that was always intended to be removed after construction. When the construction was complete in 2016, MSD deeded the former treatment plant property to the city of Prospect. And that's where the current parking lot is and the meadow that's adjacent to the canoe launch. Prospect was given permission to keep the culvert crossing, but the goal was always to replace it with a bridge. The bridge would return the stream to its natural state and increase water flow, which will help with the canoe launch water levels. And it also would be an attractive gateway entry to the park trails. In 2021, we engaged OHM advisors to do preliminary planning, geotechnical work, and to identify bridge options. In 2022, in January, the Parks Committee voted unanimously to recommend the weathered steel bowstring design as the best combination of cost, low maintenance, long lifetime, over 50 years lifetime, and appearance. In March, we gave additional work to OHM to finalize the bridge design, including foundation design, and provide estimates for the cost and oversee the bid process. We put it out to bid in October of 2022 and expecting the cost to be $80,000 to $100,000. The bids came back ranging from $182,000 to $300,000. In April, we went back to the contractors who participated in the original bid process and invited them to enter into a negotiated bid process and explore ways to reduce the cost. Following that, in May, we had two bids, one just under $170,000 and the other one for $270,000. Although the project was included in the mayor's proposed fiscal year 24 budget, it was removed before the final budget was approved. And I understand that the council is considering creation of a capital budget. I would strongly advocate that this project be included in a capital budget for this fiscal year. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Did I make it under 3
You
minutes?
did. And then you can amend your, add to your remarks when you give your park report. Okay, next is Carolyn Embry.
My name is,
It's on a hinge.
yeah, I tried to, there we go. My name is Carolyn Embry. I live at 8008 Weyanoke Court in Hunting Creek. And I've served on the Parks and Recreation Committee for over a decade, under 3 different mayors, all of whom I think are in the room tonight. I'm speaking tonight in favor of the Harrods Creek Bridge project, and my remarks are going to be even more brief than Linda's because she's already made all the good points. John and I have lived in Prospect for 21 years now, and we love living here. I'm sure everyone would agree that there are many reasons to love living in Prospect, but at or near the top of my list is my love for our parks, which I consider the crown jewels of our community. I live less than half a mile from the trailhead of Harrods Creek Park, and I can attest to the fact that this park is widely used in all seasons by people of all ages every day, by people both from within our community and from people outside our city limits, which I think is a good thing because it likely introduces people who had never been to Prospect before to the beauty of our community. Most of the people that enter the Harrods Creek Park do so through the parking lot of Montero. So the proposed bridge would be a welcome gateway into the park and to the trail system, the network of 4 interconnected hiking trails that are used so frequently by our residents. So I won't make any more points that have already been made. I don't want to repeat things that Linda's already explain to you, except to say that probably, it's obvious that the bridge would be an aesthetic enhancement to our park. But I think probably the main selling point of the project is the practical aspect that Linda explained in bringing the stream flow back to its original state and reducing the siltation that occurs near the canoe area. So I, in closing, just want to thank Mayor Farnsley for coming up with alternative way to finance the project, which I hope will give the council members a greater degree of comfort in approving the project. That being said, thank you for your consideration, and I urge you to support the Harrods Creek Bridge project in your budget.
Thank you, Carolyn. Next, I'll call on Dr. Henry Sadlow.
Thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight. And since some of you knew my father, I'm a little loquacious like him. I'll set my timer on my watch. So I would like to support and this project that Linda has come up with. Jeff knows, and Chief of Police, several of y'all know that I've probably been on that trail 300 to 450 times in the past decade. This article I'm going to submit as evidence to the council, written by myself and Dr. Mary Berry, talks about all the people I've brought on the trail: doctors, accountants, dietitians, police officers, artists, radio personalities, I know who that is, school teachers, lawyers, federal judges, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, but all these people have benefited by this beautiful trail. And they get the aerobic activity that the American Heart Association recommends, 150 minutes per week. So if you do 50 minutes on the Harrods Creek Trail, just 3 times a week, you've already got it. We go other places too, but this is a beautiful place, the Harrods Creek Trail. On this one picture that I've got, I'll leave a couple copies for there's a picture of Dr. Mike Edwards, who came down as chairman of Cincinnati's Department of Surgery to do the Harrods Creek Trail. We got retired surgeon Randy Cuno, colorectal surgeon Mike McCafferty. We got Scott Davis. We got Susan Sweeney Crum came this year with us. Federal Judge Chuck Simpson. If I had my hat, I would tap it. I always call him Your Honor. But all these wonderful people that I've been able to bring out on this beautiful trail. Now, the culvert where it is now, frequently in the wintertime when it rains, it's muddy, there's gravel there. It's not, I wouldn't say it's an eyesore, but it would surely benefit from improvement. So I would just like to give full support for this project. I really appreciate all that Linda has done, previous mayors and city council people that have put a lot of time and effort in this beautiful, beautiful place. And as Forrest Gump would say, that's about all I have to say about that.
Thanks, Doctor. I remember another Henry Sadlow. Your father was a very distinguished attorney in Louisville.
I got it in 3 minutes, but here's a few things y'all can look at. Picture of a few people back there, a beautiful little map. Anybody that wants to Villanova, there's a bonus sheet right there.
Thanks, Doctor. We appreciate it. Chris Reynolds.
How's it going? I'm Chris Reynolds. I live in Honey Creek here on Rockingham Road. I just want to give a little quick story about how I came out here. I didn't grow up in Louisville. I grew up in Northern Kentucky. Came down here for college, met my wife, and then we lived in Linden. And then we, just before getting married, bought our house now in Honey Creek. We didn't really know a whole lot about the area, but we had come out here and done the trails and had eaten at some of the local restaurants out here. And when the house came up, we bought it, and we've put a significant amount of work into our house to make it our home. And so now we've got 2 boys, 3 and 1, and we use the trails a lot. So you'll see us out there with the little one in the backpack and the other one trying to keep up alongside of us. And so it's been a fantastic asset to us. I used to always go to Red River Gorge every year and go hiking, and now I feel like I've got Red River Gorge in my backyard. So it's definitely very nice to use. And when this project came up, I was excited to hear that it was being considered. So also use the kayak launch personally too, and it does get dry. We've had a wet month, so it's not as big an issue now, but in the summertime, it can get pretty silted up and dry. So when you go to launch your kayak, you've got to walk it way out there, and not everybody is probably able to do that as easily as others. So if that does enhance that piece of it, I think that's going to be really important to do. So love Prospect. Three big things that I want to see are, improvements in, keep pouring money into our police to keep us safe. Keep making a good environment out here for small businesses to thrive. And then third is keep our parks looking beautiful out here. And shout out to the Boy Scouts that maintain the trails. They are perfect. I don't think I've ever seen a piece of garbage out there or any trash. I think people do really take care of the park, and the small bridges that they've built have been fantastic. So I think this would be a great addition to it. So thanks for giving me a minute to talk to you all tonight.
Appreciate you coming to the meeting. All right, and then finally, Mayor Todd Everly.
Thank you, Mayor Farsley and members of the council. It's been some 10 years since I've had a permanent fixture of the third Monday of the month on my calendar. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of our park system. Prospect is I think, the only Jefferson County suburban city that has a well-defined, diverse park system, starting in the 1970s, before we were even incorporated as a city. When the development of identified Colley Park, a 2-acre open space. Moving forward from that, we added Putney Pond and Woodlands, which is the 25 acres, which was purchased from a developer 15 years ago in 2008. Now we look at the 109 acres of Harrods Creek Park with 4 distinct trails, over 4 miles of hiking in a wooded natural area, and canoe kayak access to Harrods Creek. More recently, we've included Little Hunting Creek Park, children's playground, and the John Evans Pavilion. Parks provide and cement our profile as a present and progressive city. And I commend the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for all the work that they have done through all of the people that have worked on the committee over the years. I would like to note that the popular internet app, All Trails, which I keep on my cell phone, rates Harrods Creek Park and Prospect 4.7 out of 5 possible points. And this is listed from 1,125 reviews as of today and over 600 photos. We need to recognize the iconic aspects of our Harrods Creek Park. It's an iconic gateway to the park. It's readily observed structure from the parking area, as other people have pointed out. It's really the threshold as you go into the park. It will replace a scruffy, dirty gravel path, which we've also talked about tonight. It will remove a steel culvert pipe that is under that path and was really designed as Linda pointed out, as a temporary construction culvert. It would restore the natural flow of the stream bed, allow clear view of a small waterfall that's on the left as you enter in, and control an erosion and silting in the paddling access, as other people have indicated. Costs of capital improvements are significant, to be sure, but this is a one-time permanent improvement to our most popular natural area, and we must maintain and preserve our capital assets. 2024 will be Prospect's 50th anniversary as a city. Including in that celebration, we should fund or establish funds for the development of a signature gateway to our most popular and attractive natural asset. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So the next item on the agenda is financial, it's my report, excuse me, the mayor's report. So I've got some comments to make. First, I'd offer congratulations and welcome to Prospect's newest council member, John Clark. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Next, I'll report on our successful July 4th celebration. The addition of the Sons of the American Revolution as the color guard in the parade and for the raising of the colors was, I thought, very well received. And my understanding is they'll be back to help us celebrate Veterans Day and to help us celebrate the 4th of July next year. We added additional children's games, and those seem to be well received, in addition to the bouncy house and the train that we've had in the past. A number of family members of our police officers were in attendance, and I had the privilege of meeting them and speaking with our police officers. It really struck me, maybe more than any other time I've talked to our police officers, they were wearing Kevlar vests. And I thought about that, and one of them had a water bottle, and he put his head down and he poured water over his head, and that was the heat from that Kevlar vest. They're not wearing them as a fashion statement. So they're putting their lives on the line for us, and it certainly, in meeting their families, certainly enhanced my appreciation for our officers. Next was the fireworks, which I think were a big hit this year. They're always a big hit, but this year's seemed to be particularly well received. So I want to commend our staff, our police, and our volunteers for all they do all the time, but particularly on the 4th of July. I thought it was a great success. I'll talk briefly about the John Evans Pavilion. Since our last meeting, we've had 2 additional concerts, one on June 18 and one last night. Those were very well received. We've now had a total of 3 concerts. We had Shakespeare in the Park, we've had a family reunion, we've had a birthday party. So the pavilion is getting substantial use, but not as much use as the playground, which is occupied almost all day, every day. I noticed on Saturday, 2 different families were having a picnic in the new picnic tables near the playground. I noticed a family today having a picnic at lunch also. And then finally, with regard to Little Hunting Creek Park, I'll mention Harley Daughtery's new Fox chainsaw sculpture, which I think is a big attraction and has been very well received. So next, I'll talk briefly about Rumpke. We've changed now to trash being picked up once per week. That was effective July 1, so actually effective July 3rd, which was the first trash day after the 1st of July. There's been that's been pretty well received. There's been some adjustment, some confusion. Even Rumpke has been confused because they came into the city last Thursday to pick up trash on a day when they weren't supposed to be here. But I think that's the kind of thing that happens when you make a change like this. The change to recycling being picked up at the curb on a biweekly basis we've introduced that concept to the public. That will not happen until after September 1st. I think the first Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, maybe September 9th, although that doesn't seem right. But in any event, it'll start and there'll be biweekly pickup starting in September. The current understanding is that Rumpke will collect the entire city on Thursday. That's my current understanding, but stay tuned. Because it's a mechanized process. They'll send one truck and one driver in, and that'll take care of all the recycling. As everyone knows, the continuation of our current service in its entirety would have cost the city $1,200,000 per year. With both changes in place, the cost will be $743,000, which is slightly lower than the annual cost for the past 4 years. The current budget, as adopted, had a shortfall of $15,000 approximately that was made up by a transfer of funds from our surplus. And that caused concern for me that we may be embarking on a system that was not sustainable if we continued the existing recycling, and really pushed me to go ahead and make the decision to make this change. In the upcoming newsletter, we'll describe the new trash pickup and also include questions and answers, frequently asked questions and answers regarding the recycling, because there's some nuance to it, and we'll make sure that everybody understands that. During the course of the meeting, I anticipate that we will be considering for first reading a capital budget for the 2023-2024 year that would provide funding for the stream crossing bridge that's been talked about. I'll make additional comments at that point during the meeting about that. So with that, next item on the agenda is the financial report. John Carter has joined us by WebEx.
Hello, everyone. I'm in Lexington attending a Municipal Clerk Institute this week, so that's why I'm attending remotely. So the financials I did distribute with your packet. So just to summarize those, we're at the end of the fiscal year for June 30. Cash on hand amounted to about $3.1 million. Of that, we've earned roughly $45,000 in interest on our CDs since we've invested in, I believe it was February. Actual revenue came in at 3.643 million. It's a little over what we had budgeted. Expenses came in around 4.2, and that is under budget by about $80,000. Restricted road funds amount to a total of roughly $267,000. And that's really the gist of it. I will entertain any questions.
Are there any questions for John? I'll mention that with the changes in the Rumpke service that are being implemented in September, we will avoid a deficit in the current year's budget. We'll have a surplus, and we remain on a sound financial footing in the coming years. So thank you, John.
Sure.
Mayor?
Yes.
We, at what point will we have a budget amendment for the past year? I mean, we're obligated to balance.
To clear it up. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure, John. Do you know when we'll have that? Are we going to wait
I
for
think we should do it just as soon as I can prepare it. We could do it next regular scheduled meeting, or if you feel like it needs to be a special meeting, we can do that. But just as soon as I get back to the office and have a chance to revise it.
And I plan to offer an amended operating budget for this current fiscal year that will reflect the additional funds that we've got by virtue of.
I just want to make sure we didn't overlook.
No, we appreciate that, but we've got that on the radar. Okay, commission and board reports, forestation report. Lee?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Council and Parks for the nice concert series. My wife Sandy and I have enjoyed that, and want to congratulate Linda Wardell and the selection of a wood carving artist. It's a beautiful rendition of the Foxes. All very nice, along with Harris Creek Park. So
Forestation, we met on July 11th. There was no meeting in June because of lack of quorum. And on the July 11 meeting, reviewed about a dozen cases involving hazardous, obstructive, declining or dead trees within the city. I really no discussions of planting. 4 cases of hazardous trees on private property will be sent to code enforcement for follow-up. There's a couple of issues with trees at Hunting Creek Country Club, and we will meet directly with them to resolve those issues and see if they need any further help, and to discuss ways in which there's a forestation board and the club could work together on any tree issues on club properties. I don't know if you noticed today, there was a tree trimming along 42. And this may have been actually a result of requests put in through our consulting arborist, Andrew Hanlon, made last year for trimming to be made. And she submitted a new request last week, but I doubt if it precipitated the current treating, but it was probably a result of last year, or maybe they were just doing the work. But in any case, you can see that the hazardous trees are at least being cut back. I will note for maybe some council members who weren't on the council some years ago, we had the same situation with the overlook, where there were declining and dangerous ash trees on state jurisdiction property, and Andrew worked with the state highway department to have somebody come out and actually remove some of those trees at state cost rather than city of Prospect cost or overlook cost. Also want to mention that there's 4 situations involving struck branches or dead or declining trees on city property, and those will be either done, take care of by city maintenance or through some contractor for city maintenance. Other activity, Linda Knox and Connie Kuhn preparing a newsletter article detailing the characteristics of hazardous trees and the obligations of property owners to remedy hazardous situations. We have an ongoing problem in the landings with declining trees there, and this is some sort of a general information to property owners. I'm not sure it'll precipitate any action, but it'll certainly make people more aware. Another program that's planned, we have our canopy tree program. We had a fall program and a spring program where the city and the property owners share the cost of buying and planting trees. And we've had several trees come through that program, and we plan to follow up with the property owners to ask how their trees are doing and any comments or suggestions they might have. Next meeting is scheduled for August 8th. End of report. Any questions?
Any questions for Lee? Thanks, Lee. We appreciate you and your the forestation board's good work and Andrew's good work. I think her recent communication with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet may have actually precipitated the work that's just been done. So it was a great job. So next is the Prospect Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee report. Linda?
I'll speak a little more slowly this time. So I was writing my report last week after our Parks Committee, and the report that you all received written said that Harley Doherty was continuing his work on the sculpture, and it would be done in a week or so. And the next day, I was driving home from Kroger and saw that he was staining the statue. So he finished it the day after I sent my written report. But I think I have heard nothing but rave reviews of that sculpture. And I think it's a beautiful addition to our park. So I'm happy to have that. We've had several programs that have taken place since the last council meeting, and the mayor mentioned the two concerts in the John Evans Pavilion, which were both, I think, quite well attended. The event last night, people are spread out on that lawn, and it doesn't look that crowded. And right after intermission, I went up kind of to the edge of the field and started counting, and there were over 80 people there. And some people had left at intermission. So I think this series has been very popular, and I think it will become increasingly so as the word spreads. So there are two more concerts. One is Sunday, August 6th. I think that's Most Wanted Band. And then on Sunday, September 10th is Cheryl Rouse. And I think both of those programs will be very interesting. So put it on your calendar. On June 17th, we had the craft program that we called Art for All. And it was an opportunity for children and adults to create their own tie-dye t-shirt. And as our committee member, Sally Schneider, who organized the event, as she mentioned, it was really good that everyone didn't show up exactly at the same time, because it really did take a little bit of instruction. And we had 3 volunteers that were giving instructions about how to do the process. And they had a chance to work in groups of 2 or 3. And everyone in my family made a tie-dye t-shirt, and we've been wearing them. It was a great success. We had probably 20 plus children and about an equal number of adults. So I think that was a lot of fun. The last thing I want to mention is that the Parks and Recreation Committee has been trying to figure out ways to get younger people involved as volunteers. And one of our committee members, Tina Bevan, has been in contact with schools. They want us to wait until they kind of get back in session. But she also came up with the idea that we should invite a high school student to become a member of our committee. And so she and I have put together an application form, and we're going to be sending it out either in the newsletter or city mail. We've talked to the manager of the country club, who said that he would be happy to send out information about that in his manager's update. And then we're also going to supply that information to the various high schools that Tina's been working with. So our thought is that we will ask people to fill out an application. We'll have 2 members of our committee interview the candidates. We will give, you don't need to be a Prospect resident, but we will give preference to a Prospect resident. And we're just asking the students to explain why they want to serve on the committee. I think it'll be a great opportunity for the students to learn something about the city and the park system, and working with other people in a volunteer capacity. And I think we will really gain from getting the perspective of a young person and find out what they're looking for, what's interesting to them. So our goal is to try to have a student applied and interviewed and in place early in the fall, hopefully by September. And of course, we make a recommendation to the mayor because the mayor appoints members of the committee. So that's all I have. I don't know if there are any questions about anything I've just said or anything I said earlier about the bridge project.
Let's have a question. Earlier, you said from the beginning, the intent when MSD made the modification was to put in a bridge. Any discussion who was going to do that?
Oh, it wasn't MSD that was going to do that. It was our goal as a committee.
Okay.
Because we had to get a permit to keep that in place, because the permit that MSD got was for a temporary stream crossing. But we needed to keep that in place, or we wouldn't have a way to get equipment and lawn mowing equipment and other things across that stream. So that was always our goal, to make it a more aesthetically pleasing crossing and a nice gateway to the park. But, over the past 10 or 12 years, we've been putting other amenities in the parks. And this is sort of the culmination of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Linda about the stream crossing bridge or about her report generally? Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Chief, I think we're ready for the police report.
If you need any further evidence that Dr. Sadlow and company use the trails on a regular basis, I can show you my cell phone because he texts me at least once every 2 weeks and invites me to come out on the trails with him. And then when I don't show up, he shames me with the photos of everybody else that did, including a bunch of retired policemen that I used to work with. So it's just like, well, you didn't come, but look at all these people that did. So thanks for shaming me. But he does really use the living heck out of it. I'll have to admit that. Okay. With regard to the reports, we finally have somebody that's helping us compile the stats again. So hopefully that'll come in line. Now, I don't think you have a copy of it because it just got finished a couple hours ago. So we finally got counting the house checks and everything again. They're actually up about 600 over this time last year, which is a pretty significant increase because they had been tailing off for a while. But people are really starting to leave again. So that's a good thing. We're still not capturing all the information on the citations and warnings because we only have 10 here. And I know there's more than that. And there's a glitch with the way that we're capturing them because not everything is making it to Jill's thing. The way that they come in, it's all done via computer. And then when they come through, we, either Tony or I, have to approve them. And then we print them out. And if it's done correctly, we print out one for us and we print out one for Jill. We're not always printing them out for Jill because the stack that we have is considerably larger than the stack that Jill has. And Jill's stack is the one that's getting counted on this report. So we've got to clear that up because we're writing more than what we show on the report here because we've got a really significant stack for the year. But it's not always getting captured here. So
we appreciate your efforts on that.
We've got to clean that part of it up. And so we'll work on that. With regard to some of the reports, there's one listed under a call response, and it was listed. Of course, we mentioned before about the bomb threat at Kroger. We talked about that last month, so we know about that. There's one, it's a negligent discharge of a firearm. There was a guy in the apartments on Montero, I think. Anyway, he drops a gun. It was a crappy gun, and that's why it discharged. It went through a floor and went into an apartment below. Anyway, McKeon investigated it. We checked everything out. He's been in contact with the prosecutor's office numerous times over whether or not they would even prosecute something that truly is an accident. Well, they are. So we took a warrant for wanton endangerment. So there will be a prosecution on that. Now, where it goes, I don't know, but that's an argument for that guy to make in court as to how negligent he was. Let's see. We did have a theft from the construction site, the new subdivision there in Hunting Green. Let's see. Regarding the code enforcement, Rick was pretty busy. He had 23 permits issued for the month. That's pretty significant. One of the cases that he did work on was we had a pretty frequent complaint of lights from the country club parking lot below that were actually, they were aimed kind of high and they were up in somebody's back window. And it was pretty bright. We had officers go up at like 11 o'clock at night and get photos from inside. But Rick worked with the club. They were fantastic. Just going out there and talking to the guy. We didn't even have to go through Zeke, the general manager there. We talked to somebody else down there around the maintenance barn, the guy that runs that. I don't even remember his name. But anyway, he cleared the whole thing up. They corrected it. In fact, I think they overcorrected it. Now the parking lot's a little dark, but that's beside the point. But they were fantastic to work for. I know a lot of people get disgusted with them, but they couldn't be further from the truth. And they worked very well with Rick. One of the felony reports we had was a rather significant criminal mischief to a vehicle where somebody keyed up a car, but as it turned out, they were both acquainted with each other. They used to be really good friends until one of them started dating the other one's ex-girlfriend. So now they're all out of love. To the tune of about $1,500 of damage to his car. So they're getting that squared away. Let's see. That's pretty much it for the reports. From our side, we did have a new officer hired on July 2nd. His name is Kelly Ernst. He was former Louisville Metro, but he also worked at U of L Police most recently while his kids were in school. He replaces Officer Tony Leitch, who decided she didn't want to work full-time anymore, so she is switching to part-time. So, and that's a full-time slot for Kelly. So he takes Tony's full-time slot, she goes to part-time. And it's been helpful to us because she's really good with administrative duties because she used to do that as a detective. So she's actually coming in and squaring away all the stuff that was falling to the side when Jill's been gone. And Jill's been out since May 10th. So there was a stack on the desk, but she's now getting everything scanned in. And she's made more headway in 4 days than you can imagine. So it's been a godsend to us. And another thing to upgrade on is Officer Michael McKeon. His position has been upgraded from an officer to a sergeant, and that was effective July 1. And that was due to all the added duties that he has. He does all of our investigation. He does all of our training. He does firearms training. He handles everything to do with our computers. All of the reports that we have and all the subsequent follow-ups. He keeps a timeline on everything. If you have a case open X amount of days, he's the one that follows them up and he closes out the reports and everything and keeps everything in line for the state of Kentucky. And he does an unbelievable job with that. He's very, very organized. So we're lucky that he agreed to take on all those other duties before we decided to even upgrade that position. So, and again, he's handled all those other investigations that we've had, and he's done a terrific job. That's all I have, unless somebody has questions.
Any questions for the chief? Thanks, chief. We'll move to unfinished business. The first item on the unfinished business is consideration of an override of the mayor's veto of ordinance 623, an ordinance relating to the amendment and modification of chapter 150, building regulations of the code of ordinances of the city of Prospect. Is there a motion?
I move that we vote on that.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So that everyone's clear at the outset, to override a veto requires a majority of the council plus one vote. That would mean, since the majority of the council is 4 votes, there need to be 5 votes to override. So I'll open the floor for discussion. Is there discussion?
My comments are, Mayor, that there appear to be three issues with this. The no painted brick. Your comment that it was not a good choice, that the builder explained that using tan brick was not a good choice. It'd be not as attractive. I really question going to a builder or a developer for their aesthetic views. I don't think their interests coincide with the city's on a regular basis. But I think the key issue in development of this thing was whether it was going to be the council or the mayor who made the final decision on the aesthetics, essentially. And I think that's where we are right now. I believe that 6 people, whether they agree, 4 of them would have to agree, or 3 plus the mayor's breaking the time, would be in a better position to evaluate compliance with the ordinances. The council creates the ordinances and has an intent when they develop those ordinances. And looking long term, I'm trying to put this in proper perspective. I think this city, the commercial area in this city is going to go, I think, going to go under significant change in the next 10 years. And I think we need to be looking farther ahead than today or Gustavo's or something like that. I think we need to be looking at the age of the units in our commercial area, the expansion of 42, which would require raising some of the buildings when they're reconstructed. What will they look like? I also think that the LDG project, the affordable housing project, is going to have a significant impact. And I think that if we are rather loose with enforcing our ordinances relative to the look of our commercial area, that it would give them another arguing point to say, okay, well, look, we're going to make this, look like a log cabin or a shack. So my feeling is that the vote was 4-1 last time, and I think that Sarah's vote related to the painted brick, and I'll be the first to acknowledge that the words are not the best when we describe the painted brick aspect. But I personally voted for Gustavo's because I think that it complied in basically with our existing ordinance, because it basically, when you look at it is a stone edifice, the front, and we have many buildings in the commercial area that are painted on the sides and on the back. We need to rethink rewording that particular portion of it. I don't have any problem with painted brick per se, but I think what we see needs to be consistent with what we've asked all of the people who exist over there now. And some of them we've had pretty contentious arguments with relative to their facades. I mean, so anyway, that's enough. I think we were 4-1. We have a new council member. I think it's something that the council needs to have the authority to deal with.
Sir, further discussion?
The current ordinance just talks about brick or stone. There's no language in there in terms of how it should compare with the other buildings, and this is strengthens it. As it says that a new construction has to compare favorably in character, design, color, and material construction with the majority of others with the commercial areas in the city. And I don't think we should kill this ordinance. We should have a say. The city has a responsibility for the look of its commercial area, and we need to retain this so we have some say in that. And to leave it open, it's gonna be Preston Highway, Shelbyville Road, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I supported the ordinance change when it came up. I still support it. It's not personal between my opinion and the mayor's. It's a philosophical one. I think the council was in a better position to decide what the community standards should be and then the enforcement of those community standards. If a variance is needed, that can be accomplished, and the council is the mechanism that votes on the variance. So that leads me to believe that the council should be the people voting on the original adoption of the building plans to start out with. I will support overriding the veto in this case and not on a personal basis.
Is there further discussion?
Let me ask, the council has ultimate deciding power on the final, is that right?
They decide whether the builder is meeting the 13 steps they're required to meet. The ordinance provides, as currently written, that the mayor deals with the issues of aesthetics. And as I said in my veto message, I'm open to discussion with the council at any time by phone or in person. And I think that the council would find me to be pretty accommodating in hearing their views and carrying those out.
You feel like the 13 steps are comprehensive enough?
I do.
To address
The council's
what
role.
we're talking about. Well, I think that painted brick should be allowed, so that's kind of a tipping point for my.
Painted brick is allowed in the ordinance.
I thought it was not allowed.
It's not allowed in the ordinance that you adopted.
Again,
It's allowed on existing buildings, just not on new construction.
one of my comments were, I think it's poorly worded. There's a word in the ordinance that I think needs to be deleted if we proceed with that. It says all external sides.
Okay, so further discussion? We ready to vote? Go ahead, Don.
Just point out on the painted brick, to Frank's point, there's wiggle room there, but if somebody wants to paint the brick, it comes to the council and the mayor and ask for a variance for painted brick, it would be considered.
That becomes a variance request at that point.
Yes, and that comes to the council.
But that's only for new construction. Existing structures are not governed by the painted. And existing structures could be painted tomorrow. And I think you showed me that one has been over in the Kroger Center.
Yes,
Attractively.
there have been painted brick and they didn't request a variance. Well, they didn't need a variance.
Didn't need a variance.
But they would now.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, we're ready to vote.
Motion.
Okay, we're ready to vote.
I'd like to have a motion.
Okay. The motion was to override the veto.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll call the roll. Frank
Yes.
and John
No.
and David.
Yes.
John Evans,
No.
Don,
Yes.
and Sarah.
Yep.
So if I can write the vote as somebody help me, 3-3.
Correct.
So the veto's not overridden. And it stands. Okay, next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 627, an ordinance enacting and adopting the 2022 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Prospect. This is pretty much a ministerial ordinance, I think. Is there a motion to proceed with the second reading? Frank's made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Sarah?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
John Evans?
Yes. Yes.
John Clark?
Yes.
And Frank.
Yes.
So that's approved 6-0. All right. The next item on the agenda is the second reading of an ordinance establishing a capital investment fund of the City of Prospect. Is there a motion to proceed with the second reading of that ordinance?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. And is there discussion?
I move that we amend the existing verbiage on second reading to what I submitted earlier, which is mostly procedural.
Well, I received it for the first time in the council chambers this evening.
I understand that. I received what your changes would like to be yesterday afternoon on the golf course. So,
Well, they weren't my changes, they were mine and Don Gibson's
Anyway.
changes.
So, anyway, I offered
So what is the motion?
the motion. The motion is to amend it in accordance with the sheet and of changes that I have presented, and the council all has a copy. Now, I don't think that this is a time-sensitive issue, and we can postpone it until everybody's had time to read it, because it is procedural.
I would appreciate having more time.
All right, so there's a motion to amend and
Let me amend my motion to
give that further.
postpone the second reading of the existing ordinance to the next meeting so that we can have an opportunity, everyone can have an opportunity to review the words.
So the motion is to postpone, to defer the second reading of ordinance 628 to the next meeting. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay,
Second too.
all right. So is there discussion? This is a motion to defer the adoption of ordinance 628.
The only changes are the ones in red here.
You'll have to ask the author.
No, there's
red
other-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's other,
There's a lot.
yeah,
Oh, I see. I see. You got some.
there's, yeah, there's-
The red is, was submitted by the mayor as one of his recommendations, so,
Well, the mayor and Don Gibson.
and Don Gibbs, okay.
Okay. I understand.
So the motion is to defer consideration of the second reading to the next meeting. There's a second. Is there discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious if anybody sees any consequences of deferring this to another meeting or doing it tonight.
Yeah,
Does it impact anything?
well, let me say this, having talked to our contractor twice in recent days, we received the bid in June. This was considered and discussed and debated when we had the general operating budget. That, I'm talking about the stream crossing bridge. Yeah. So if this is postponed, we're going to further postpone that project. If assuming there's a motion for first reading and it's approved. So I take strong exception to any attempt to delay this process further. But I don't vote on this. That's just my position.
The only changes suggested to this proposed ordinance, the ones in red that Frank.
No, they're underlined and crossed out, John.
But I
Yeah,
got
I
this
see
copy
that,
of that.
that's underlined, I see that, but I mean, this document that you passed around before the meeting,
Yes,
that's basically it, that is it.
yes, that's great.
Um,
But I sent it to the council
yeah,
earlier today, and I had sent it to Doug. It never got to him, so it got to you.
well, I would suggest that we just take a few minutes to look at it and read it and decide tonight, given the time constraints that bears described.
So
Let's take a
this is
look at
only
it.
on the first reading.
Correct. Yeah. But it's dependent upon the adoption of the enabling ordinance.
Which you can, this would come up. Would come up.
So it's your view, we can go forward with the first reading of the budget this evening.
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't.
I will,
because this-
I will,
Okay.
I will insist on it.
Right.
Okay, well, then I withdraw my objection.
Yeah,
I think it's fine to defer.
But we have to, this one would have to come before this.
Right. That can be done in one.
At the next-
At the
Yeah.
next one, right.
No, then I withdraw my objection.
But to John's point, I think there's some serious issues in this that the council needs to discuss. Some of them are, as Frank has indicated, basically language issues that really aren't that critical, and I think some of them are well taken. But I have some real problems with us mandating a projected minimum amount into the capital budget without us thinking more about a funding mechanism to do that. Now, that doesn't preclude us from doing that down the road. So I'm not sure that it's anything. And I really don't like the idea of eliminating in section 2 the paragraph 2B, where we talk about public improvement programs such as parks, recreational facilities. I don't understand why that's being
That was
eliminated.
moved to A. I felt it was redundant because the words are exactly the same.
So you think public facilities includes parks and recreational facilities?
Sure.
Well, anyhow.
Anyway, those are points of discussion.
That's all stuff we can discuss
Okay,
at the next time.
okay. Further discussion on the motion to defer to the next meeting, the second reading of ordinance 628.
One more thing that just everybody to keep in mind. The premise here was, when I was going through it, this appeared to me to be a three-step process. You had to first allocate funds, you have to put them in the funds, and then you have to have the expenditure part of it. And that came on. That was not, to my understanding, that was not clear in the original one. We kept talking about a fund, but we very little about how the expenditure was.
You and Don put it together, Frank.
I understand, but my point with what I said today was, Don and I did it in kind of a two-man vacuum. We got no feedback.
Well, I provided some suggestions.
You did, absolutely, but I mean, from the council itself, we got no.
Well, I think your motion's on the floor. There's been discussion. I'm sure, and I agree that it doesn't delay first reading of the proposed budget. So with that said, are we ready to vote? So I'll call the roll. Sarah?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Yes.
Frank, okay. So the consideration of the second reading of ordinance 627, excuse me, 628 is deferred to the next meeting of the council. So the next item on the agenda is first reading of ordinance 629, an ordinance establishing a budget for the capital investment fund of the city of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024. This is the stream crossing, funding for the stream crossing bridge that we've been discussing this evening. Is there a motion to give a first reading to that?
So moved.
Ordinance? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? We're ready to vote. Okay, Sarah
Yes.
and Don?
No, I'd like to see it kick down the road a bit.
Okay, so no vote. John Evans
Yes.
and David
Yes.
and John
Yes.
and Frank.
I abstain on this one.
Okay, so the vote is 4 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention. And
Order about abstentions. They are
an
not
abstention
allowed.
is,
I understand what it is.
yeah, go ahead and explain that, John, if you would.
Well, an abstention will ultimately be counted with the majority. Just understand that part.
So the vote would be 5 to 1 instead of 4 to 1 with 1 abstention.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we'll give this ordinance a first reading. David, if you would do that.
An ordinance, this is City of Prospect, Kentucky, ordinance number 629, series 2023. An ordinance establishing a budget for the capital investment fund of the City of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024.
All right, so that everyone's clear, this is the ordinance that establishes the capital budget that includes $180,000 in funds for the Harris Creek Park Stream Crossing Project that a number of our citizens spoke to earlier. So with that first reading, I think we've concluded the agenda. There's no further business to come before the council. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
You survived the first meeting.
Good night.
We got to vote yes and no things. Yeah.
Um,
No, but it's no problem.
Which building?
Yeah, I got